Everybody wants to talk about the core dive skills: buoyancy control, horizontal and trim positioning, and of course, fin control. But today, we're going to talk about two hidden dive skills that might be hindering you from becoming a safe and competent diver. I'm Diver Dave. I've still got that coffee. Let's get into it. Okay, hidden dive skill number one is awareness. But we can't even get to awareness until we talk about the elephant in the room, which is dive egos. And dive egos are everywhere. It could be a new diver, it could be a seasoned diver, it might be a dive master, it could be an instructor, and of course, even some dive shop owners suffer from having a massive ego. And the challenge with that is, if you don't check the ego at the door, it's going to be very difficult to have a real, honest, humble conversation with the diver in the mirror and ask the question, how can I improve? How can I become a safer and more competent diver? But without checking that ego, you will never get to the point where you are aware enough to ask the right questions. Now that we've checked our ego at the door, we can look at the diver in the mirror, we can self-assess, we can ask the right questions, we can go and solicit feedback. It might be critical, although that's the best kind of feedback that we need in order to improve. But all that to say is, we are at the point now that we are asking ourselves the right questions. And if we can get to that point, it means we can now identify the areas that probably need improving the most in order to become a safer and more competent diver. The Unprepared Diver is about as good of an example of lack of awareness as it gets. It is almost a guarantee that on a charter boat, there is going to be at least one person who is an unaware, unprepared diver. And you can spot them because they're typically the ones that'll show up late. They're scrambling around to get their stuff on the boat. By this time, they've probably pissed off the captain one or two times. And if you're on that boat and you're having a hard time spotting the unprepared diver, well, it actually might be you. Now, new divers, I'm going to put you to the side for a second because I get it, you're still learning, and hey, you get the hall pass. This is the time to observe, watch all of the people on the charter boat, and start to see out of that group who is causing the most stress. But divers with 20, 30, 50, 100 dives or more under their belt, there really is no excuse for being labeled the unprepared diver. The only excuse is you just have lack of awareness. Now that they're on the boat, they're causing nothing but stress because something is wrong with their gear. Maybe it's a high pressure leak, maybe they lost an O-ring, but whatever it takes, now they're having to ask for help from another diver who is just trying to enjoy their dive day and get ready for a fun dive. But oh no, the unprepared diver expects the help. And so the unprepared diver, by the way, once they get in the water, it doesn't get any better. And I have seen this example time and time again. It doesn't matter if it's in the St. Lawrence, it doesn't matter if it's down in the Caribbean, and I've even seen it down in cave country. So if you are labeled an unprepared diver, be careful, because once you get the label, it is going to be very, very hard to shake it in your local dive circles. But all that has to happen here is sort of be aware enough to at least ask a couple questions. I wonder why I am the only one that seems to be always dealing with gear issues. How come I'm always the one that seems to be stressed and I look around and most people don't seem to be that stressed? These are some of the questions that you could easily sort of self-assess, and then you could start to figure out how you fix them. Because being an unprepared diver at some point is just not going to be any fun. And so awareness comes in as hidden dive skill number one. And as you might have guessed, it's not even really a dive skill, but it is certainly a skill that is going to help us improve over the course of our dive journey. And that brings us to hidden dive skill number two, which is accountability. Now that you've figured out all of the things that you are aware of, now you have to game plan how you're going to fix them. And this is going to require discipline, and it's probably going to require some practice. And now that we are aware, we can go back to the example of the unprepared diver, which, by the way, is a pretty common example. And there are a few easy fixes. Number one, the charter boat. always show up early. I don't care what time it is, but be one of the first to show up early. The beauty of that is you get to meet and greet the captain early. You get to put your stuff on the boat. You probably get your choice of seating. And even better, now you get to sit back and watch who is going to be the late one. But guaranteed, it's not going to be you. Equipment failures. Plan for equipment failures. There is no point taking all of your equipment onto the charter boat just to assemble it all, only to find out now you have an equipment failure and you're 10 minutes away from the dive site. This is stressful. Why not pre-build your kit? If you own your stuff, if you're renting your stuff, take the time to pre-build it before you even arrive at the charter boat site. That way you have caught all sort of issues before they even happen. And even better, you have the time to resolve them so that by the time you walk on the charter boat, your equipment is built, the kit is ready to go, it's tested, and you have a high degree of confidence that it is going to work when you need it. You're 10 minutes out from the dive site, you're putting your wetsuit on, you're getting all your equipment ready, you know your dive kit is ready to be strapped on, a quick test, and off you go. And again, now you get to sit back and watch all of the others on the boat and start to figure out, hey, it's not me anymore, but now who am I seeing as the unprepared diver? You may come back to me and say, hey, Dave, man, I got labeled with that unprepared diver, and I'm having a hard time shaking it. And here would be a few suggestions. Number one, build out an awesome dive toolbox. If you start to help others sort of rescue them from their own unprepared diveness of the dive, you will then start to become someone who is looked at in terms of being reliable. Number two, if you do have that unprepared diver label, there is nothing that wins over the boat like a box of donuts. If you are the one showing up early, giving a box of donuts to the captain, I guarantee you by the time everyone hears the fact that you are the one that brought the donuts, you will be one of the best dive buddies of the day. And last but not least, it just takes time. So you got to be patient. I mean, you earned the unprepared diver label. Now you got to go and earn the prepared diver label. Now that we've gotten through most of the episode, I wanted to take a minute to share with you a few examples that I've seen over my own dive journey. And I remember a diver who thought he aced his open water course and came out of that with a massive ego because he knew that he was a great diver, only to have his ass handed to him 2 weeks later because he massively struggled through his advanced open water course and the ego took a bit of a hit. Or you could talk about that exact same diver showing up to a local dive event and he was late. And then, of course, had equipment issues, couldn't sort out the stupid tank O-ring, and because he was now rushed because everyone was in the water waiting for him, decided that he should put his wetsuit on backwards, even further delaying the group dive. You could talk about DSMB deployment, and this diver not really thinking that it's important, and that he knew when the time came, I would figure it out in the river. And when that time did come, having the DSMB catch on the right glove and pulling him to the surface from about 25 feet, and the 3 weeks of ear issues afterwards. Or we could talk about compass navigation and never really thinking that underwater navigation was that important and always relied on my buddy because he was good with the compass. And yet on one of their bigger dives, they got separated and now he's lost and had to do the surface of shame in the middle of the St. Lawrence River because he couldn't find the dive boat. And last but not least, even after 100 or so dives, this diver thought his buoyancy control was pinpoint accurate, only to miserably fail a technical assessment at the platform at one of our local dive sites. Now, I'm not going to call out any names on this one, but it's probably not rocket science to figure out who that diver was. But I can tell you, it is no longer who that diver is. We started off this video by talking about 3 important things and 2 hidden dive skills. Number 1, drop the ego. It's diving. It's a hobby. This is something that we enjoy doing. We should all be sort of hanging out and having fun with each other and learning. Number 2, of course, is awareness. You have to possess the ability to be aware enough to ask yourself, hey, I'm sure I need some improving in some areas. What are those areas and how do I do it? And then last but not least is the accountability. Now that I know what I need to practice on, can I hold myself accountable to put the practice time in and improve in those areas? I hope everyone has enjoyed this. I would love to see some comments below in terms of your own experiences of how you handle awareness, ego, and accountability, and how do you practice. I'm Diver Dave. Practice hard, dive safe. And that brings us to hidden dive skill number 2, which is, but I'm just going to leave it as, or you could take it because he massively struggled through his open